the day. Before I do that, let me formally introduce myself to your good selves. I am Hugh Malele, the spokesperson for the National Taxi Alliance. And the process this morning will unfold in this fashion. Well, maybe let me say, this is the Deputy Chairperson of WATA, Mr. Nkambule. Next to him is the PRO of WATA, Mr. Mia. And next to Mr. Mia, next to our General Secretary, is the Secretary of WATA, Mr. Ngwanyane. And then on the further side, we've got Mr. Philemon Zima, who is the Treasurer General of the organization, and also is a member at a provincial level as an executive member. And next to him, it's the chairperson, the Deputy Chairperson of Gauteng Province, that we call GNTA, that is the Gauteng National Taxi Alliance. That's Mr. Moyo. And in the middle, in a red bright tie, good looking, it's Alpheus Malalazi, our General Secretary. So yeah, we will then kickstart with Mr. Malalazi, as protocol would demand. Will take us through as to what is this that the organization, together with its affiliate structure, have come up with and called before. And then he will then be followed by Mr. Ngwanyana, who will fill in wherever there will be gaps in that process. So what I will then also do, immediately once they have done that, I will dish out the copies of the statement that they would have released, and then we'll then open for questions. And I'm sure we should be able to answer all your questions to the best of our abilities. Without any further ado, let me then give this opportunity to the General Secretary to lead us in this morning's deliberations. Over to you, Jess.
Thank you.
Okay, let's do this because you are here. You can't make it elsewhere. Yeah. So you can also make notes quickly. Maybe let's do that. Are we all okay? We also work for the media house. Okay.
Can we start?
Yeah, certainly. Let's
Thank you very much, spokesperson. I am sure Mr. Nzima was listening attentively at your introduction, and it only says when he does bonuses, you have already submitted your application.
Look into the side.
And thank you very much for your attendance, members of the Fourth Estate, you are called. Yes, the Fourth Estate. You are welcome. Mr. Malela, our spokesperson, has already welcomed you. The reason we are gathered here is because of what is happening in the CBD of Johannesburg and Soweto regarding conflict involving two taxi associations. So we thought it important that we should respond to that, and we will present our briefing in line with that. The Gauteng National Taxi Alliance, an affiliate of the National Taxi Alliance, hangs its head in shame following the torching of 6 taxis on Saturday, 16 October 2021, after the outbreak of taxi violence between WATA and Nancefield Taxi Associations. 4 taxis were torched in the Johannesburg Central Business District and 2 were torched in Soweto. The outbreak of the taxi violence and torching of taxis at one of the tallest skyscrapers in Africa, one of the best architectural building works in the world, the world-renowned Carlton Center, which is located in the world-famous city of Johannesburg, is an assault to all the laws of our country and a bad advert for our country and our industry, which is the taxi industry. No amount of anger can justify such brazen acts bordering on terrorism and sedition. In this regard, law must take its course without fear, favor, or prejudice. Gauteng National Taxi Alliance condemns the ongoing acts of violence in the strongest possible terms, and we take this opportunity to unreservedly apologize to the commuters who have unjustly and undeservedly continued to bear the brunt of these wanton acts of violence arising out of endless conflicts. We also apologize to the Mayor of Johannesburg and the city, the MEC for Roads and Transport and the department, the Premier of our province and government. Last but not least, our national government for the embarrassment we have caused them in the eyes of the world. And when we say we mean the taxi industry. The conflict between Water and Nandue, the two affected taxi associations, has been going on for a long time, and many peace and operational agreements have been signed between the two associations, only to be violated before the ink dries on paper. Regrettable, many lives have been lost, properties destroyed, and sadly, not a single person has been convicted for the murders and destruction of property. This glaring failure is a serious indictment on our law enforcers and the judiciary, and therefore begs the question if the lives of taxi commuters, owners, and drivers matter. It is to be noted that government is not without blame in the origins of this conflict. Through the tax regulation and control process, whereat tax associations, their routes and members were registered, how did we end up with two distinctly different tax associations, both registered on similar routes, ending up with similar operating licenses authority? With all the resources at its disposal, why has it taken government this long to authoritatively pronounce on the lawful and legal operational rights of each of the two warring taxi associations? Because why we are asking this question, when the registration process took place, each association was to submit excuse me, the routes and tax ranks where they are operating from. And local government, your municipalities, your metros, were providing concurrencies which were confirming that indeed this association has been operating here for whatever number of years and so on. So definitely, thank you. Definitely there was to be no confusion to that. That question needs to be answered. Hence we find ourselves where we are. Notwithstanding all the questions and reservations, as the Gauteng National Taxi Alliance, we have come to the conclusion that working together with the MEC, Jacob Mamabolo, his department, and other organs of state, our colleagues in Santako Gauteng, the two affected taxi associations, and other interested parties, this long-standing conflict must and will be brought to an end speedily. We commit ourselves to leaving no stone unturned in our quest to come up with a permanent solution for the sake of our best deserving commuters, and to that effect, a process for a permanent solution will be announced soon. I know you will be asking us, what permanent solution are you talking about? We are not about to reveal that, otherwise we jeopardize the process, but rest assured, we have taken a decision that this conflict must come to an end. working together with the parties that we've just announced. In the meantime, we call upon the two associations in the conflict, WATA and Nandue, to desist from any further acts of violence and intimidation to give the solution rendering peace process a chance. We further plead for tax operations to return to normality, both in Soweto and the Johannesburg CBD, to relieve the inconvenience, fear, and anxiety our commuters and taxi drivers, the most affected parties in this ongoing conflict, are going through. We equally plead with government to permanently deploy non-partisan law enforcers on the affected taxi routes and taxi ranks to maintain law and order. It is disheartening that we held a meeting, a very good meeting with the MEC of Transport, MEC Jacob Mabagula, the other day, and we agreed that the taxi associations must go back to operation to provide the transport we are licensed to provide. But we had reports yesterday and to a certain extent this morning that some people have been arrested stoning cars. One car was hijacked full of, one taxi was hijacked full of passengers. The General Secretary at WATA will give us fuller details about that. On the very same routes and taxi ranks that we had agreed that government was going to deploy security resources to ensure that there are no incidents arising out of that. It then says we will need to talk very strongly to government to take the lives of taxi passengers, drivers, commuters, and taxi operators seriously. We equally plead with government to deploy permanently non-partisan, because there are some officials, we've heard a lot of rumors from our members on the ground that there are some officials that are taking sides and therefore complicating the whole situation. Therefore, in conclusion, we once more profusely apologize to the commuters and the affected communities and assure them that their comfort and safety in our taxis and taxi ranks remain our number one priority, and we will do everything in our power within the laws of our country to ensure the optimization of their safety and comfort. Thank you. That is our message in response to what has transpired and how we plan to move forward in the future. I know we are speaking at the level of the mother body, but the people that are on the ground, feeling it every day, seeing it every day, are the local associations, of which WATA is with us here. I will stop there and allow Mr. Malele to take it forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, GS, for that insightful information. Let's now allow Mr. Nkwanyana, who is the General Secretary of WATA, to also fill in the gaps where they really feel that maybe the GS may have omitted. And yeah, just make impetus on what has been already alluded to. Mr. Nkwanyana.
Thank you, spokesperson, Mr. Malele, and thank you to the panel, my leadership, SG, Mr. Moyo, our Deputy Chairperson, and Mr. Nzima, who are our national as well as provincial leadership. What has happened, of course, acknowledging my colleagues, Mr. Mia, who's the PRO and the organizer of the organization, as well as my Deputy Chairperson, Babu Kambula. What has happened, and I greet you all, media, what has happened is that the GS, Babu Mlalazi, has given a very eloquent and thorough outline of the developments that have been happening. There are only a few details that I will give just to elucidate or perhaps to give further clarity. One, yes, we have a vehicle that disturbingly was hijacked, full of commuters last night, on one of the spots that are affected, and we've then labeled hotspots. This disturbingly was after the meeting we had with the MEC, who laboriously or industriously responded to the developments of Saturday, and had a meeting with us. We also had a meeting with the top brass of the SAPS, covering the Johannesburg region as well as your Soweto district. And as WATA, we responded positively to all these efforts by both law enforcement as well as the legislative arm or political leadership in the person of the MEC, Jacob Mamabulu. We are, however, at the moment hopeful, as the GS has outlined, that the legal or judicial process surrounding the causes of this conflict, which is in progress, and we are satisfied as WATA, where we are sitting, that we're doing everything in our power to bring back to normal the operations, so that the inconvenience to our commuters, as well as the embarrassment to our government. Of course, we are seconding the statement by our mother body, i.e. that the embarrassment as well as the egg on faces, we also share that, and hence we second the sentiment. However, we're doing everything in our power to bring back to normalcy the situation, as well as your operational and day-to-day running of the public transport in the province. Further to that, we may take questions, spokesperson. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ngoyan. It is now your opportunity, members of the media, to ask questions, but let me then also, as a prerequisite, to say, give us your name and the media house from where you come from, and then you can then fill your question. And then
I'm a minute from the association. Can we just get one first? Where did the incident that Babu is referring to happen? And if the Kumbu was hijacked with passengers, what ultimately happened? There seems to be less detail on that. What ultimately happened and how has it been recovered? Are still people held hostage somewhere? And then secondly, the Umlalazi indicated that there's a process that he doesn't want to discuss at length that is taking place to find a lasting solution on this conflict. I want to know why should we believe that this time around it's going to work? All the MECs of this province have had to intervene in this conflict. Why should we believe that it's going to work? My very last question is, do you have confidence in the announcement that was made by the MEC on Newsroom Africa yesterday that he wants an independent inquiry? Do you believe in that inquiry it would give a solution, and please provide your reason?
Okay. Mr. Mangwa?
I'm from ENC, and I think some of the questions are already raised.
Excuse me for the interjection, spokesperson. By the way, Mr. Maduna is from?
Soweto newspaper.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I know the famous Penwell.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, man.
Okay, okay, he's already asked some of them, but what I wanted to ask is that the issue, I mean, this has been a long-standing issue between the two warring associations, and again, this finger pointing on both sides to say this one is wrong, the other one is wrong. And we just want to understand what went wrong in this particular situation, number one, and secondly, how sure are you that this time around, this solution that you say is on the table is the solution that's going to bring an end to this? And then just thirdly, the other side, Nduwe, is pointing fingers at you and saying that it's actually WATA that's attacking, that's harassing their passengers, that's even beating passengers. and taking passengers and telling them not to take taxis from the other association. And that's really, you're the one that spurred this violence that happened. What do you have to say to that? And yeah, basically, for now.
Okay, Mr. Munga, will that be all? Okay, maybe let's give both the GS and Babu Ngwanyana to respond. GS?
Yeah, let's start with where the incident happened, and what is the fate of the passengers and the vehicle itself.
Thank you, Babu Mlalazi, and again to the spokesperson. The fate of the passengers at this stage, we're getting very sketchy reports. One will understand that between yesterday and up to this point, a lot of incidences have happened, but however, as WATA, we're happy, delighted and relieved to indicate that a supposedly driver from Nanduwe was arrested last night for stoning vehicles, practically. He was apprehended, and we can with relief indicate that he was handed to police custody last night. After a series of questioning and discussion, and he was taken to he was handed over to the police. We are hoping that our law enforcement this time around will get to the bottom of this problem. So as to the vehicle that was hijacked, the reports we have is that the owner of the vehicle, we've indicated that all WATA members who are aggrieved or who have fell victims must open cases, and I'm sure this morning, and unfortunately I'm here in this press conference, which is important, but I'm sure at a later stage, before close of business today, we will indicate the further and full report of as to the condition or situation of the commuters of the taxi. At this moment, it's still very sketchy, but we are sure that law enforcement has the details, and we also will indicate the details as we receive them.
So we're not sure
later on today.
Any fatalities?
No fatalities, no. I can indicate no fatalities, and one would hope that the conscience of the perpetrators, given the fact that it was reported and it came to our attention, and we handed over a suspect who was practically apprehended by WATA through WATA's efforts and personnel. My thinking is that the perpetrators then realized that there's a cul-de-sac on their activities. Can I continue?
Yes,
with the questions?
Being a culprit. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. The culprit is in police custody, was handed over to the Jabulani SAPS, and we are hoping that as law enforcement does what they should do, we'll be getting an update as to the origins, etc., of these activities of smashing the windows of WATA vehicles. But I must indicate to you that it's very interesting, the stories that came from this young man. He indicated that they were actually taken and they were instructed to smash WATA windows because Nanduwe vehicles were not working. I can disclose that because those are the utterances of the suspect. But for now, that's all we are willing to indicate. And what's the status of the conflict? The matter is also sub judice, I must indicate, and therefore that of course plays into the next question, which says, why do we think this time around the solution will be long lasting and will answer the questions and will settle the matter? We really think so adamantly, and the reason is simple, that in 2018, to be exact, on the 27th of November, the Transport Appeal Tribunal responded to an appeal, appealing a matter or a verdict that had been delivered by the provincial regulatory entity that the routes belonged to Nanduwe, because the primary cause of this is the routes. So on the 27th of November 2018, WATA got a positive outcome of the appeal tribunal, which instructed the Department of Transport to do what they call in law a de novo Section 79(4) inquiry, which is supposed to come out with a concise answer, precise answer, which the routes belong to, Nanduwe or WATA. It's been since you can count from that date to now, what has had to approach the High Court. And on the 4th of August, we are here to give record that the High Court in Johannesburg, though virtual, but the High Court in Johannesburg ordered that order be carried out. So even a child, your mathematics will tell you why the conflict hasn't ended. And we think that given the fact that on August 12th, there was another court sitting and the judicial process is going on, and there's water where we are sitting. We are very comfortable with what's going on in terms of the judicial process, and we think that as it's gotten to the bottom of this matter, we will be vindicated in terms of who the routes belong to. And that's why we are adamant, and our mother body, hence it indicates that this matter will indeed be resolved finally.
Anything to add before I? Okay. Yeah, no, thank you. A bone of meat was thrown, figuratively speaking, at hungry dogs. They are fighting over that bone, because if it is more than one dog and there's only one bone, they will fight over that bone. That is the situation we find ourselves in. Hence, we are saying there was a regulation and control process that was aimed at regulating operations in the taxi industry, resulting in registration where each association had taxi operators who are members of that association registered under it, taxi routes they operate on, and taxi ranks they operate for. Something went horribly wrong during that process, which resulted in the two associations somehow being given a similar or same authority on those operations. Whereas in reality, history is there to say who operated where and how they operated. Now, no one has been able to adjudicate properly on the matter to say, according to the information that we have in our database, you are entitled to this, you are not entitled to this. That has not happened. And this is where we are. So we are saying now, the leadership of the taxi industry, government, and the two affected associations, let's come up with a solution. Everything else has been done in the past. It never yielded the desired results. So we cannot do the Albert Einstein thing of, what is it called? Insanity. No, we can't continue doing that. The two associations, the leadership of the industry and government, we are going to get into a room. We already have suggestions that we've put in place that must be deliberated on. Democratically, we are not going to impose anything on anybody. But at the end of the day, a solution will have to be agreed or imposed, because it can't just go on like that. Luckily, even if a decision is taken, people are not happy with it. They are allowed to go to court and do whatever they want to do, but at the end of the day, the final result must bring peace and stability in the affected operations in the taxi industry. Indeed, there is an arbitration process that is being mooted, but we don't see that as the alpha and omega or the nucleus of what we are talking about here. A solution must be found from the people who are operating and from the government that regulates those operations. The arbitration will say, in terms of the information that we have before us, this one is entitled to this, that one is entitled to that. We welcome that. We want the truth. So that whatever decisions are made, they're based on the truth that it would have emerged out of that. But what the National Taxi Alliance, or the Gauteng National Taxi Alliance wants to see is a solution coming out of the operating entities, which are the associations, and the regulating entity, which is government. That must happen. We are not going to wait for all the other processes and so on while Rome is burning. So it's a pity we are constrained. We can't give you the details, but I have no doubt in my mind very soon the leadership of the taxi industry and the MEC for Roads and Transport in Gauteng will make an announcement as to what is it that we are doing and what are the parameters. I don't know if we have left any question unanswered.
You are being accused of attacking passengers, of being hostile towards Nanduwe. That's fine.
Thank you, Mr. Nkunu. Let me indicate, while we do not want to open graves, but I think for the sake of the record and for the sake of sticking to the facts, as a matter of fact, the leader of WATA, Mr. Mbata, even said, referring to the two incidents or incidences, the banning of taxis is not the first. This on the 16th Saturday, the 16th of October, was not the first incident. The first incident when it happened, water taxis were burned, and we have submitted to the judicial process, as we've indicated, photographs, case numbers. By the way, that adds to the 33 fatalities that water has suffered in the hands of hitmen. I'm saying this figure because we have a list bearing case numbers and names to them. It's in front of the courts. However, on the question that Mr. Nkunu has asked, the first instance was around, I think, the 2nd of August, when some date in August on the record where water vehicles were burned. And to go back to the first part of my statement, Mr. Mbata likened that as when we met the MEC on Saturday. He said, and Mr. Nkunu and the media, with due respect, it's not an accusation, but it's an observation I think my chairman made. He said, the cameras take a while when it's water taxis burning. And this was in no way a condonement or a condoning of Saturday's activities. No. But we noticed, we have come to notice that when it is water that is under fire, it takes time to get to the media. And we've come to also realize that, but when it's Nanduwe, it hits the headlines. And I, at the risk of being seen as pointing a finger, I'm not painting any finger, but I'm just saying that this incident was an incident that succeeds another unfortunate incident, and we stick by our statement that we condemn it, but it's an incident. It's the second incident of the banning of taxis in Carlton City Centre as well as Soweto. Thank you.
No. Thank you very much.
There's Malunga.
Yes, Mr. Boy.
Hi, my name is Malunga from Near Africa. I just want to get an understanding. You're saying you've got suggestions that you put on the table and how this conflict could be resolved. One of those suggestions that you were putting on the table. And the other question that I have, and this is something that Nanduwe said, that water essentially is just trying to monopolize every route, and you're also creating illegal routes. I just want to get a sense. I mean, are you why would you try to monopolize the sector, the routes? And one of the things that I've heard was that just because you guys have been operating or have been around for many years, you seem to use that. You're taking that as an advantage to monopolize every route and not allowing, other associations to be part of those routes. Why is that? Why is that? And do you think it's fair?
Can I respond, spokesperson?
Okay, you've got answer. We'll give you an opportunity. Let me respond to
Thank you. Thank you very much, Malungelo. Thank you very much, Malungelo. There's a balance that one needs to strike, unfortunately, between respecting a matter that is sub judice, but at the same time, I don't want to sit here on behalf of WATA and appear or project an impression that WATA is running away or hiding any factual information. Unfortunately, SG, you'll pardon me, and the entourage will pardon me, because now this forces us to reveal some of the factual basis on which this conflict is based. No. Firstly, we're not monopolizing anything. You can do the arithmetic. We want to tell the world today as WATA JTA that, and it's necessary, the question necessitates that I give, light to this, especially because Nandue has made those allegations. Firstly, WATA was officially born in 1972. Yes. Now, Nandue was born between 1990 and around 92. Sure. And the four individuals that went and formed Nandue, which is a product of an amalgamation of three entities. Yeah. The first one was the Dube-Rockville, which was a local operation. The second one, Nancefield to Rockville. Those were local associations. Sure. Now, the Dube-West, which resulted in Nandue, if you check the acronym, was originated from four individuals that defected from WATA, that left WATA, that broke away from WATA. And the fact that they were able to ferry passengers from Dube or Soweto Mfulo to West Street was on the basis of the operating authority that the SG has referred to, which is the permit. That permit had been granted because those were WATA members. So your simple arithmetic will tell you that they had permits to go to Johannesburg, which was called magisterial permits at the time, because one will recall that this was in the apartheid era. So you had two types of permits. The one was saying within the boundaries of Soweto. The second one was magisterial, which could allow people or operators to go as far as Joburg. So breaking away from WATA by any stretch of the imagination tells you who came first. Now, the problem is that in the absence, as the SG has indicated, we don't want to go into details, but your regulatory entity, that's where the problem is. You now get permits that are registered on top of routes that existed on the WATA database or on the WATA regulatory granted authority. I hope that settles the question by Mr. Boy. And that has resulted in the conflict, because there's no way that Babu Mlalazi can have a son and then 10, 20 years later the son rocks up and says, yeah, but this is my house. And that's where Babu Mlalazi had the son in the first place and grew him up. Arithmetic of even a grade 1 will tell what the answer is. Thank you.
Before you take it, you see, one profession that are really true to their profession is the media. Until a man bites a dog, they will not let go. I'm a bit worried that we are slowly edging towards controversy. Whereas the reason for this media briefing, one, is to apologize to South Africans, our commuters, and our government for what transpired, which is a very bad advert for our country and a very bad advert for us as an industry. We can never attract investment into our industry when we behave the way we behaved on that particular day and others before, because the General Secretary Nkonyane is correct in saying taxis were banned in Killarond.
Yeah.
Yes, and there was no hullabaloo about it. But I guess you guys were busy with something else, but it's fine. What hold it against you? The second issue is that the blame game has happened for too many years. Now we must come with a solution. We have a responsibility as the taxi industry, so does government, to bring this conflict to an end. And unfortunately, when that happens, the adage that says the best deal is when both parties are not happy will have to apply in order to come up with a product that is going to be acceptable to all the interested parties or the affected parties. Now, we will give that process an opportunity to deliberate, negotiate, persuade until we have a final product. I want us to emerge out of this conference with WATA, our affiliate, saying, and we're saying, we don't want that. It's about time we occupy the middle road position in order to find a solution. And we are adamant a solution is going to be found irrespective on what is going to be compromised. As long as the truth is not compromised, law is not compromised, justice, fairness, and equity are not compromised. So I don't want us to gravitate away from these very important issues, because we don't want that. Thank you.
Okay, Babu Lamini, and then followed by, have you raised your hand? Oh, okay. Well, okay. Oh, your question is not satisfactory with the answer?
No.
Which one?
Oh, okay.
Which one? No. What is it that you'll be putting on the table in those negotiations? I want to know, because this is not the first time we're finding ourselves in this. And also, I hear that, oh, you're here to apologize and all, but why should people accept the apology? Because this has happened before.
Okay. Southern Africa can sit in a meeting and talk. And Lesotho says, I want to be allowed to have a harbor. They can talk until they grow hair on the teeth. Lesotho will never have a harbor because there is no sea. So Lesotho is surrounded by South Africa. Southern Africa must find a solution how to allow Lesotho and South Africa share a harbor. That's all we are prepared to say now, but I've just given you a picture of what we are gravitating towards. Thank you.
Babu Lamini?
Would you love No. Okay. Now, mine is to go back to my earlier question. One, you haven't specified the location where the hijacking took place. You see, so that when we go to the police for them to give us details, we can link it to a nearby police station. Please specify where the hijacking took place. Number two, I've said it, the MEC has already said he's talking about he's going to do an independent investigation on this route. Maybe I should rephrase. Is that investigation part of the solution that you're presenting? One, I asked Elabuti, what is your view of this investigation? Because we've had the Gauteng legislature investigating the taxi industry, chaired by then Chairperson Babukawa. Secondly, we had Justice Hlongwa investigating. They both make recommendations, most of which pointed at the department. Now, I want to know, now there's a new investigation that's going to be done specifically on these two associations. Do you welcome it? Do you believe it may arrive at a different outcome? I just want to get an idea of those two.
Okay.
Okay. The last one.
That's fine. The location of the hijacking is, like I said, my details are sketchy. as you can allude or see, as the Secretary General of Water, I get info, but the details, as I indicated earlier, I cannot say in corner Maponya and Machaba Street, but I know that it is between Orlando West and the railway line before you get over to Jabulani Hostel or Jabulani Mall. But I'm sure at a later stage I will indicate the exact precise location of the hijacking. Yeah, the SG will respond to the second one. But as water, we welcome any investigation or fact-finding commission. I thank you.
Yeah, you see, people we tend to point fingers at law enforcement and so on and so forth. But I think it is proper when such incidents happen, particularly where commuters are affected and abused, as a matter of fact, we need to give precise information, because I've heard also fingers being pointed at the Moroka police station regarding how they handle such incidents. Maybe you should give a precise information so that when they make inquiries, it's based on intangible information that they can use. But maybe, yeah, when we are given another opportunity, you can elaborate on it. But with regards to the issue of the process that is being initiated by the MEC, the taxi industry in Gauteng is working very closely with the MEC Mamavulo. The line between the industry and him is very thin, because we have committed ourselves to finding solutions to most of the problems afflicting the taxi industry in the province. But with regards to the issue of the arbitration process, I've already indicated the arbitration process is more academic than solution rendering, to the effect that the solution that is required to resolve the Wata-Nandue conflict must come from the taxi industry itself and government. We are not going to allow a situation where people sign agreements that are not bringing any solution, like it has happened in the past. When you say Wata and Nandue holding similar operating licenses, operating on similar route, must go and operate, what is the order? There must be an order that says when you get to the CBD coming from Soweto and get to the Carlton Center, this is how Water will operate, this is how Nandue will operate. Has that not been done before? It has been done. Was it a solution? Absolutely not. Therefore, what is remaining? What is remaining is to say, this is the permanent solution. If you don't have any that counteracts against this, therefore, live with it. That is what we are aiming towards. That is what we are going to push for. And we hope government will be with us when we do that. We don't want to go deep to say this is precisely what it is, but what it is, the solution that we will have to come up with, Wanta and Nandue will have to operate those routes, those taxi rank, without any labels. Let me leave it at that.
Okay, just finally from me, tomorrow, what are you expecting in terms of the meeting? Are you expecting to sign another peace agreement? Are you hoping to sign another peace agreement? And what makes you sure that this one will be the one that will last? I know you've spoken about it, but are you confident this one is going to be the one that will bring about a lasting solution? And then just secondly, what is the current situation between the two taxi associations on the ground? I hear that you're also saying there's been a text, but what is the current situation right now on the ground?
Current situation.
I thank you. Firstly, as the SG has alluded, the MEC in his close working relationship with the taxi industry in general, because that is based on continuous engagements with us, yes, but via our mother body, has outlined the meeting for tomorrow as a continuation, so that we have continuity or sustainability in terms of solution seeking, in terms of calling the executives and holding them accountable. It's very difficult, Mr. Mkunu and the rest of the in charge, to then predict and say this is what will happen or unfold. But given the fact that we've alluded to an apology, we are committed to the apology, and as the SG has provided leadership together with the department, of course, in the person of the MEC, it is our hope from where we are sitting as WATA that meeting and the fact that there are already suspects in custody, and therefore law enforcement is supposed to do their bargaining, their part of the bargaining, and that tomorrow one hopes that the holding accountable of our neighbor association should give us, and of course we have, and we're not running away, our own part of our drivers losing control of their tempers, given the things that were coming against them, as I've alluded, that this is the second incident. We are hoping that tomorrow there should be a development, a further development of occurrences and discussions that should culminate or end up in a solution-driven kind of outcome. By the way, remember that, like we said, the judicial process is also unfolding. We are hoping that that should fill the gaps in terms of saying, but spokesperson, accept that indeed you took the places, the SG's place. I hope that does justice to the question.
The current situation? How would you say this right now?
The current situation is that my chairperson, as well as the Nandue chairperson, have been phoning each other. And if I may give an example, we met the Nandue Executive Committee on Saturday at a location, which meeting was chaired by a senior leading leadership of the SAPS, given that criminal activities had already unfolded. So I think that in that sense, the discussions between the two organizations at executive level, I can say that we are engaged in discussions behind the scenes. Thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to add that tomorrow's meeting, the two associations will have no choice but to agree to a ceasefire, so that we can allow taxis to go back into operation normally. The leadership of both WATA and Nandue will have a responsibility to go back and address their members and drivers to say, we have reached a ceasefire, whereas we are allowing a process that will bring a permanent solution to this challenge or conflict to an end. So in order to allow that process to unfold, let's cease fire and allow the operations to operate normally. While that is happening, it is also an event where all the interested parties will agree that all the other agreements that were signed in the past or entered into in the past have failed. So therefore, we are coming with a new thing, which is ABCD. That meeting should be charged with that tomorrow. We don't want to speak for the MEC, but from where we are sitting at the Gauteng National Taxi Alliance, and luckily we worked very closely with our colleagues in Santaco Gauteng. So I expect that we will agree on what needs to be done to bring this thing to an end.
Yeah. I guess there are no more. Okay, Malu.
What happens if the ceasefire is not, no one is prepared to start a ceasefire? What happens? Because, I mean, there is a possibility of that happening. History has taught us that is also possible. That's why we also finding yourselves apologizing again to members of the public who you have let down, not once but so many times. And why should people accept this apology? I still really want to get that response. Why should people accept this apology? Why should they believe that you mean it when you're saying sorry? Because as I stand here, I don't think you are sorry.
Believe me, Malungelo, a person who takes out 500,000 rand, 800,000 rand, and buy a shop that is supposed to bring him income, that person would have to be declared insane, of unsound mind, if they set fire on that shop. That person would be of unsound mind. But as the taxi industry, we accept that there are rogue elements in our midst who would do that. But believe me, both in Water and Nandue, we don't bury dead people every day, because when they get to a red robot, they stop and wait for it to be green, which then says we are dealing with people of sound mind, people who would distinguish between right and wrong. So you wouldn't expect that the majority in those two organizations would refuse to see peace, to see progress. I don't think that is good. There would be rogue elements, of which it remains to the leadership on both sides to persuade those to see the light that everybody is gravitating towards. So we cannot, as the industry, abandon ship because there are rogue elements in our midst. No, we can't do that. We will be making a mistake. We have made serious investment in this industry and we want it to have a bright future. Hence, we have the responsibility to persuade those that want to paint the taxi industry in a bad light and win them over to our side using persuasion and stating facts. Yes, you have got every right, like any citizens, to look at the taxi industry and say, icon. Will these people ever get it right? How many years did we fight to get our freedom in the country? But we eventually got it right. We would only then come into this building holding a broom and a duster. But here we are occupying. The taxi industry will eventually get to that. Hence we are saying the time of being nice and negotiating peace that would not last, it's over. Even if it means telling our members or our structures that given our constitution and the aims and objectives for which we were established for, whether you don't deserve to be my member unless you do 1, 2, 3. That time has come. Otherwise, we are being left behind as an industry. Hence, we are taking the initiative to say, government, we are coming with our own suggested solutions. Let's talk about them so that we can implement them. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, SG. To add to what the SG, which is an eloquent and very appropriate answer, The fact that the taxi industry is a multi-billion rand industry, we've come to the realization, sadly, that someone is counting the billions that are generated by us as an industry. And we continue to count the corpses. Correct. And the burning vehicles, etc. It has come to our, for example, as Secretary General of Water, I respond to finance houses on a daily basis and confirm membership and confirm the standings of members. Those calls are about members, as the SG has indicated, to buy vehicles that are around R1 million and more per unit to do and transact business. We think we've come to a point, hence you hear the SG, but we are not about to release details at the moment for fear of obvious reasons, but we've come to the realization that unless somebody says or rings the wake-up call to the industry and to our members on the ground, Rome will burn and burn unstoppably. So really, we think that the business element in this industry, taxi industry, if we don't take leadership and conscientize our members about the truthful situation that we are in, we think we'll be fighting a futile exercise. But as we know, Rome was not built in one day, but the SG has indicated, and I know that in Babu Moyo and the other leadership in Gauteng, National Taxi Alliance, of course, together with Santako in Gauteng, we are working on something, and we hope to surprise the world not so long looking forward. Thank you.
All right. Do we still have any questions?
Malunga is not satisfied.
Yeah, he's not. Yeah, no, Malunga.
Just one. Would you like Nandue to come back to water?
Negotiations can take any direction, but the defining decision will be the one that brings a lasting solution.
Yes.
People can come from all angles and directions, but at the end of the day, the final product should be something that brings lasting solution. From where we are sitting, Madungele and colleagues, as a leader, it's not an issue to me whose taxes were touched. To me, it's the taxes that were touched. Those taxes that were touched in Soweto and here in the CBD are feeding, clothing, and educating South Africans. The owners of those taxes who lost those taxes may never recover and come back to the industry. Therefore, we are creating poverty in our own people. So, the decision, the final decision, will have to allow water members, Nandue members to continue operating their businesses and feeding their families irrespective. I know you're going to say answer a question in a roundabout. I'm avoiding.
You're avoiding to give me a yes or no.
Thank you.
I don't know why.
Yes, the reason why we don't want to sit here and say.
But will it make won't that end what we currently see?
Yes, but that must be subjected to a certain process.
Is that part of what you'll be putting on the table tomorrow?
I'm constrained.
Yeah. So are you all happy?
Malo,
Between the lines.
perhaps
Oh, yeah, just
as
break between the lines.
spokesperson,
Yes, sir.
perhaps we should refer Mr. Boy and the colleagues to the story in the Bible that when the prodigals, after the prodigal son had left, what happened when he came back. But we think that the SG has given the position. We don't want to let the cat out of the sack before the appropriate time, but we think that we are ready to cross the Rubicon.
Correct.
With that, that brings us
You
to
know,
the end.
I know I'm a bit surprised Malungelo hasn't asked about the relief fund money.
Oh,
He should be as a
It was
dumbass.
supposed to assist for people to avoid fighting each other.
It's a story for another day.
yeah.
For another day, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen of the media, thank you very much for coming. We hope and trust that when we call you next time, you shall respond positively as you've always done. And we really are very, very thankful from the bottom of our hearts. We are thankful for your participation.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I know that I'll be getting calls from you on one-on-ones.
I know, yeah.
Number
What's up? You did number the other day. Yeah? You no longer have my name.
No, the names of so that I get the spelling. I have your because I called.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.